Hey folks, welcome episode 4, Ambulance Chasers. I'm Paul. I'm here with
Renee.
And, last time we were chatting, we were trying to discuss the name Ambulance Chasers, and we talked about the busting of this myth of greedy trial lawyers, plaintiffs' lawyers. But I have a question for you.
Okay.
And so many people that I know tell me that they hate practicing law. They don't want their kids to go to law school. Do you like practicing law?
I mean, I have my days
We all do.
that are stressful, but no, I love what I do. And I love it because I actually get to use my nursing to help people in a way that I could have never without having legal recourse, been able to help them change their lives, their future.
Yeah. You work with, we have 20 lawyers.
Yes.
You're the only nurse. You're the only one, I think, with any sort of medical background.
Right.
Do you find that when we sit around and talk about cases, that you can see cases from a different way than any of us can because of the nursing experience?
You know what I think? I can read the medicals and I really understand what I'm reading about and what the injuries are. Okay. Like I understand the physiology. Yep. But I really think that where my nursing background has made the most significant difference is in my ability to understand what they're actually going through, the struggles, the day-to-day is what is the most difficult part for our clients.
Right. The
very slow progress that they make, or when they have the emotional breakdown, if you will. A lot of our clients go into psychological crisis as a result of the stress and the traumatic events that cause their injuries.
Well, when you said that, I just thought, do you find your clients, and maybe because you might be more attuned to it, go through the steps of grieving? Because whatever the injury is, whether it's a chronic pain or catastrophic, you've lost a leg, or traumatic brain injury, something has been taken away.
Oh, well, it's funny. They go through various stages, just like, Kubler-Ross, that's, the stages of grief.
Right.
There's the denial, there's the acceptance there, and it doesn't just go in order.
Right.
You fluctuate. You can seem to progress beyond one stage of grief, but then go back to it.
So with your nursing background, and again, you have a leg up on all of us when it comes to this, I think. How do you manage the clients with that? I can't imagine you say, I used to be a nurse, so I know what you're saying, but I would imagine you can bring that real life experience to the table.
Well, first of all, I tell my clients, I have never been through what you are going through, right. And I'm not going to tell you that I understand what you're going through, because it's not possible.
No.
Right?
Right.
And I think people get really angry when other people try to, make them feel better by saying, "Oh, I understand how you're feeling." Yeah. Nonsense. And if nothing else, what they're going through is very unique to them and unique to where they come from in the world. You know what I mean? Like their history. And you really have to. I pride myself on this one aspect, a lot of aspects, but this is something that I think I make a difference for my clients. And that is, I listen to them. Mm-hmm. I will spend a lot of time acknowledging how they're feeling, how they're doing, and not try to change their mind about what they're going through. Right. But then after they've vented, okay, let's see what's something we can do to improve that situation in the current circumstances. And so maybe that's adding, a social worker or a psychologist to help provide psychological support and guidance. Or it could be something entirely different. Maybe it's having someone come into the home and help them with their day-to-day struggles, their care needs. Like it's unique to every situation, but without listening, without looking your clients in the eye. So these are not phone calls. Right. These are either in person, which is rare, to be perfectly honest, just because of COVID. Yep. But or doing it virtually, but learning to be quiet and listen, because they want to be heard and acknowledged. And then you can get to the part where this is, as your lawyer, I do understand what you have said. Mm-hmm. So from the perspective that I've understood what you're saying to me, I do understand the situation you are in. Now, what can I do as your lawyer to make a difference?
Years ago, I was a baby lawyer. I was 2.5, 3 years out. And I had this elderly couple. They were originally from Italy. And I remember we were getting ready for discovery. So they were coming to the office to prep for the discovery. And they came in, and they were such lovely people. And I said, "So, how are you doing today, Mr. Whatever?" He goes, "Oh, I can't even walk." I said, "No, hold on for a second. Where'd you park?" And so I just said, "Okay, we can never say that." But then I knew what he meant. Yeah. Because this was he was a gentleman from the old country. He was there with his wife. And we just started talking about their home life. Mm-hmm. And he started saying, like one of the things that bothered him so much was that his wife's cooking didn't taste the same anymore. And I remember sitting there probably for 15, 20 minutes just saying, "So what's your best dish?" Just because I always try and tell juniors, remember, this is personal injury. Mm-hmm. And get to know these people, because I think they trust you more when you take an interest other than, "So what's bothering you today? What's your injuries from your head to your toes? Yeah. Tell me what." And I just remember that still. Yeah. And by the way, her best dish was a certain lasagna. But it was really sad that, they had been married maybe like 45, 50 years, and that the food didn't taste the same. Right. And to him, that was a huge deal. And like you said, there's no way I could understand that. Nope. Because I didn't grow up in the old country. I didn't have that upbringing. And I can imagine someone taking something away from me. Right.
I mean, food's important to a lot of people, and culturally, right, for Italians. I mean.
And so then what happened, I remember him saying, like, Christmas was no good anymore. Easter was no good anymore. Right. And it wasn't because of noise, or I couldn't enjoy. Yeah, yeah. And that was his experience. And those were like, I try and tell juniors, talk to these people. Yeah. Talk to them, because, and we get a lot of people who have immigrated to this country. Yes. And I always am interested to know, why Canada? You've come, we have a big Jamaican population in Toronto. Right. And I'm always interested, one, how'd you like your first winter? and two, why Canada, not the United States? Because you figure they probably had a choice, and it's always interesting to get the answers. Sure. One of the greatest experiences I had in learning about people was when I was on the Air France plane crash case. We had so many people from Lebanon. And I had this vision of Lebanon in the early 2000s, because what I saw was Beirut on TV. Mm-hmm. Okay? Right. And terrorist attacks and warlike images. These were some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. They were wonderful. They told me about what life in Lebanon was. And it was an eye-opening experience that talk to people. You've got this great opportunity to learn what people are really like rather than taking from TV. Well, and then we didn't have social media, but
or
now
just getting caught up in a stereotype.
right. And it was
mentality.
it's one of those things where I try and tell the younger lawyers, you've got this opportunity to understand humans. And I think since COVID, that's been lost a little bit, because we don't have the same face-to-face.
Well, and I think, we used to meet with our clients and prepare them for their discoveries in person. And we would attend discoveries with them in person.
That's right.
That's way more, personal, there's a sense that they get from you and you get from them by being in the same room together.
You do.
Absolutely.
And then that little chat you have afterwards when everyone's cleared out and then you say, I'm going to speak to the other lawyer. I'll get back in touch with you. And those things are lost right now. And we've got to figure out a way for our younger lawyers to connect in the way they can. And listen, I will admit, I'm still... Everyone in the partnership's trying to pull Paul into this 2024, and I don't like it because I want everything to still be in person, which I get we're not going to do. But I think it's important that we try and figure out ways to get that connection with our clients because they are important.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have done, some clients in particular, especially the ones that are elderly, they need to come into the office and for us to be in the office together for their discovery, for their mediation. And, being willing to do that is so important.
Oh, I agree with you. I try and do that. I still have done some mediations this year in person. I still prefer it. But, we try and get them. We try and be in at least the same room with our clients. Going back to mediations, I do have a question. And I think this is something that probably happens to every single lawyer who's acting for a plaintiff, whether it's an injury case, a commercial case, whatever. The mediators often say to us, you're getting close, right? And it's like, this will bring you some closure. I get so annoyed. Mediator leaves, and I say to the clients, take that out of your mind. There's no closure. I don't believe there's closure. This is how I view it. And I give them my opinion. How do you deal with that?
I couldn't disagree more.
Okay. Cut this part.
No, and the reason why is because I believe that there are different stages of closure.
Okay.
So I don't, while, this, it depends on how you define closure.
Okay.
But there are different stages of closure. And if you're not, your physical and mental situation does not change because you've settled your claim.
Right. And that's why I've said to my clients, there's closure to the lawsuit.
Yes, but I think we have to be a little kinder to our clients and more encouraging to our clients.
Okay.
Because I don't think they need to feel a sense of that part's over.
Right.
And but I've never said to them, well, this will give you closure.
Okay.
Never have I said that. But you know what? You'll have this one less stressor, and this is a huge stressor
For sure.
And it's not going to take up there's an emotional cost to ongoing litigation,
absolutely.
And it's significant. So
For the clients or for us?
yeah, but definitely for the clients.
Yeah,
right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
So if you can take off a level of stress, and that's what I think resolving a case does for our clients. And so that's the reason why I say it's a step in the closure process.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's I probably use closure too general because I agree with you. I have one of the things I tell clients all the time. I've been in one piece of litigation in my life because I try.
You mean personally?
Personally,
I was gonna say
personally, and that was when I got divorced.
Oh yeah,
and I tell clients this all the time when we go. Like everyone puts a different value on a settlement, whether it's the money, whether it's the relief, and I tell them a story of that. My ex-wife and I were going through the mediation process,
right?
And we were getting close, and her lawyer and me just started battling. I had a lawyer too, but the egos of these lawyers, me being one of them, just I'm going to beat her, and she was going to beat me, right. And I finally there was an amount of money to pay for. Spousal support, child support, and I needed this done. I needed it done. And I called her up. I said, this is what I said, I am tired of us paying lawyers. Mm-hmm. I said, this is what I'll pay. A, B, C. And it was all within the rate. Like it wasn't. Yeah. And I said, because I'm fed up. She said, let me get back to you. And I still remember where I was. I was living in a townhouse at the time. And she called me back. And I was in the parking garage, just about to get in my car. I got in my car. She said, we've got a deal. The weight of the world was off. And though I paid probably more than my lawyer wanted me to, I needed it done.
Exactly.
And I always try and tell clients, you can't put a value on what that relief is.
And Paul, I'm going to interrupt you for a moment. Sure. Wasn't that a feeling of closure?
It was, because I got the lawsuit out of my... And then I had to brace myself for the next stage, which, it's I got to pay all this. But that was... Yes, there was that closure, and
you were eventually going to have to pay anyway. Let's face it.
And no, and that was never an issue. It was getting to the right amount, but I never want to be in a lawsuit again, personally, because I know the system. I dread it. I try and tell people all the time, don't go in a lawsuit unless you really absolutely have to. They're horrible.
Well, I've had one more divorce than you have, so I've actually gone through the litigation process as a party twice. So,
folks, just so you know, Renee has a side practice of family law. If you want, I'm just kidding.
I can tell you that I know how you feel, in some respects when it comes to family law.
Yeah, no, but there is, and I think because we know the system, we know the stress that goes into it. We understood the necessity to get it done. Where someone who is, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. No big deal. I can deal with it. I always go back to my one analogy. I always go back and ask them two things. Do you like Vegas? And if they say no, I said, then you need to settle this case.
Yeah.
And two, when we're at a mediation, do you remember the TV show Deal or No Deal?
Yeah.
And I said, that's what this is.
Right.
Because when, in a mediation, when the first numbers start, that's not real money.
Of course not.
Okay. But then the real money starts coming. And I'm sure I've had clients say, well, that's like giving me zero. No, zero is zero.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Because again, you're trying to help this person. You understand the warts on the case.
Right.
They don't want to listen to the warts. How do you deal with that when you're starting to get into that range that, okay, it might be on the lower range. I can get a little bit more, but they're still saying that's like giving me nothing. Well,
it's really all about the preparation of the client in advance of the mediation.
Right.
I tell them, my starting numbers, please ignore.
Right.
Please ignore. And ignore the defendant's starting numbers and don't take it personally. Don't be insulted by their first number. Just like, they're not going to be insulted by my first number.
Right.
Although we're never going to settle for either one of those numbers, right? But and I tell them all the good, the bad, and the ugly
Yeah.
in my prep meeting. And sometimes my prep meetings can last an hour.
Right.
And then I will actually, before we start the morning of, I will say to them, this is where I believe a reasonable settlement. This is the range of a reasonable settlement. And that I'm going to do my best to get you more than that.
Right.
But this is where I think we may end up if we're able to settle. Now, even though I do that, and I'm very careful about that, invariably, when I've put out my first number and we go through the process and we start to get into real numbers.
Yeah.
They'll say, well, why are you going lower? We started at, X number. I'm like, but that wasn't necessarily a real number. That was if everything was perfect and we didn't have any warts on the case.
Right.
If we hit it out of the ballpark at trial, maybe we would get that amount.
Right.
I set the parameters, but that's not realistic. Right. And, so sometimes I have to fight with them at that point, and not fight with them, but
talk them down.
Well, talk them down, but that's also what's very delicate about being a plaintiff lawyer, is because it's not my case.
Right.
It is my client's case. And so I'm not going to pressure them to accept a settlement that they think is unacceptable.
Right.
I can give them legal advice. I can recommend an offer and tell them why. But if they don't want to accept it, then I follow their instructions. Right. And I remind them of that. And sometimes you just have to allow the chips to fall where they may.
Sure. Okay, so you have not only you're a nurse by training,
right?
But some of us have spouses who are teachers, travel agents. My wife bakes dog treats.
Yes.
But you're married to a personal injury lawyer.
I am.
And he has the same last name as Howie Sachs and Henry. Is there a relationship between that? Oh, please do tell.
He was the only single named partner. And so I decided that I must marry him if I was ever going to get my name on the door.
Is it on the door?
No, of course not. I didn't take his name, but that's my joke, right?
Yep.
And
when did you join Howie Sachs?
Oh my gosh, 2006, December of 2006.
Okay.
So
and you, Mike, got married in January of 2007?
No, we got married in July of, oh my God, please don't make me do this, 2013.
Okay.
Yes, 2013.
All right. So here, my question is, so when you're prepping, and listen, we've all had some really tough cases, or you don't know how to deal with the client. Do you go home? Do you guys share and talk about, do you have any strategy for this?
Yeah.
Because I go to other partners' offices, and I know you do too, but you've got him right there.
But Mike and I, our marriage is very successful because we are so different.
Folks, they are so different.
Yeah, because we are so different. And he's got way more experience in this business of law than I ever maybe will ever have, because who knows how long I'll be able to.
And Mike has a long history of trial law. Like back in the day, he was doing trials all the time.
Oh yeah. Mike is a trial lawyer for sure. And the interesting thing is that the secret to our success as partners in the same law firm is that we don't work together at all. We don't work on cases together.
Right.
Okay. Now, that does not mean that I don't speak to him about a scenario and see, what he might suggest. Right. And he can give me really great pointers. But I really have to admit that I tend, because our personalities are so different, and the husband and wife, and, that dynamic plays a role. And we don't, husbands and wives don't always talk the same language.
Oh, they don't talk the same language at all.
Yeah. So, I oftentimes go to other lawyers in the firm, and get their input. Yeah, I mean, it's the key to our success.
So just so whoever's listening, just so you know, when Renee comes into my office, asks me for any quantification, I said, "Have you asked Mike?" I don't. But no, that's interesting. That's you know, I try not to talk about anything about work at home because I just want to get away from it. Right? It's like,
right.
You know, so maybe that's why I've never gone out with a lawyer or married a lawyer, but I thought, you know, dog bakers were safe, you know?
Dog bakers. But it makes it sound like she's actually baking dogs.
Okay, just for clarification, my wife does not bake dogs. She bakes dog treats. And the reason she used to have a bakery, but she found that dogs as customers, very few complaints. Oh, very, very few complaints, except from our dog, who's the only 125-pound dog that will push food away. And
well, isn't it the test dog? Your dog?
He was supposed to be, but
he's rejecting it.
He's rejecting it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, just going back to the mediation, because as you were talking, you know, I remembered some stories of. And again, I was a much younger lawyer. I was, you know, right. And I remember being at a defense firm for a settlement meeting. And I'm not going to say the firm because no one would remember the story. But I remember they came in with this number and they left us to chat. And I told the client, I need you to get up when I tell you, turn around and say, absolutely no, Paul. Walk out and go downstairs. And then I would meet him downstairs. Have you ever done anything like that? Have you walked out of a mediation, say absolutely not, knowing that this was part of a ruse that you were doing?
I've never done that. I honestly have never done that. Because I'm very interested to learn if it worked out for you.
It on that one, it did. It was sort of cut in the middle. Like, okay, so we got the extra $10,000. Okay, it wasn't this big amount, but I do remember walking out of one thinking, oh, they're going to come to me at the elevator. They're going to come to me at the elevator, and they did not come to me at the elevator. And but you can't do it too many times because then it becomes the.
Well, now you've exposed it.
That's okay.
To the world.
Yeah, no, I have, and you know, for all the defense firms that are listening, I don't do that anymore. Our juniors do, but not.
Oh yeah, right.
No, but it's. I had a partner who did that all the time, so that's how I learned to do that, and I was never a fan of it. And
but you know what? I mean, there are times when I will say, there is no point. Let's just pack it up. We're done. Yeah. But I mean it. Yes. You know, it's not a ruse. It's just that for whatever reason, I'm not in a position to continue negotiating, and it's not in my client's best interest.
Well, I had a mediation. And I was probably a fourth or fifth year lawyer. And it was a decent sized case. Our client was from North Bay. It was an accident benefits and a tort case. And we did and Paul Torrey was the mediator.
Should we explain what accident benefits and tort just briefly are?
I'm going to let you do that.
Okay. So when you're injured in a motor vehicle accident, your own insurance or the insurance of the driver of the vehicle you perhaps were an occupant in, or if it's a situation when you were crossing the street and you were hit, then the driver responsible for the accident, their insurance you would apply to for what's called accident benefits. And accident benefits provides medical rehabilitation and attendant care benefits currently up to the maximum of $65,000.
Did you say income also?
No, and then I was going to add that. Yeah.
Okay.
Then also income replacement benefits for individuals injured in the accident. Now, so that's the accident benefits side. There's more to it than that, but that's just a good overview of it. The tort side, it's not a dessert, but the tort side is where you bring the lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against the responsible party for damages suffered as a result of the accident. And that includes everything from pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment to life, income loss, et cetera, et cetera. Anything you can potentially claim, you do in the tort action.
And we will have a number of episodes on some of the changes that are coming up. So stay tuned, because I think those take effect in July, as of July.
Well, it's actually July of 2026.
We've got some time, but you need to educate yourself. Okay. Yeah. So we were at this mediation, and at the mediation, I make my opening statement, and both defense counsel make theirs. And Mr. Torrey asked my client, would she like to say anything? Mm-hmm. And I always tell clients, don't say a thing.
Yeah.
Well, she did. And she went on about a 10-minute diatribe of how horrible you insurance people, defense counsel are. You the worst people in the world, and goes on and on and on. And we go into our rooms, and Paul Torrey takes me aside and says, how the bleep do you think I'm getting any money from these people now?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And, I was afraid it's one of my first mediations I did on my own, so I was afraid to go back. Somehow we got there. But I had to take the client to the side and basically say, what the hell do you think you were doing? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? And it's like, are you kidding me? You just insulted everybody in this room.
Right.
I think you insulted me, but I'm trying to help you here. But it was like, I didn't know what the heck to do. I mean, I remember calling the office and saying, what the heck should I do?
Yeah.
And I was told, settle the case. But it's like, these are things that no law school class, no articling experience, nothing can prepare you for the unforeseen client rant.
Well, and this is the thing, because when I prepare my clients, mm-hmm. the longer I'm a lawyer, the better my preparation. Okay,
right.
Because
yes.
I've had similar experiences like you've had. Yeah. So, I've had people get up with their cane and try to whack the other lawyer in the head, during a mediation.
Did they make contact?
They did not. I grabbed the cane, fortunately. But it's like preparing them, really making sure they get it mm-hmm. as to why.
Right.
Because I've had there's fatalities, mm-hmm. and it's a very impassioned. They just have to do it. You can't always control it, but then it becomes a little bit of just some damage control afterwards.
That's right.
And I think that's where being a plaintiff's lawyer who understands the importance of long-term, pleasant relationships with defense counsel really pays off, because they can understand a client who's enraged. If you've got good rapport with them.
100%. I was your husband and I were just at a conference in Colorado Springs, and there was this great lawyer named Tom Curcio from Virginia, just outside of Washington.
Right.
And he was talking about, over the last, I think it's 8 to 10 years, he and a defense lawyer have organized the Plaintiff Defense Bar Golf Tournament for that very purpose of getting better relationship with the bar. Right. And I think that's something that needs, it's not as big a problem here as I think it is in the United States, from what my friends have told me.
Sure.
But I think it's something that we do have to work on, mm-hmm. because everyone has a job.
Right. And
it's amazing. I was talking to our partner, Adam, and Adam Wagman, and he said, he was with a defense lawyer that he took out for drinks, and, the guy is tough as nails and difficult to deal with, but he said, going for drinks, different person. We're all different.
Right.
that's one of the things, and I've got great relationships with certain defense counsel.
Sure.
I've been working with them for 20 years on cases.
Right.
That's something that I just think our young lawyers have to embrace.
And I think,
And I hope they do.
yeah, well, I know the young lawyers in our firm are embracing.
Yes.
It's how they grow into becoming the litigator that, they're meant to be.
Yes.
But I remember, because I was a lot older than everybody else when I got called to the bar. I was 40 years old. And, in law school, they didn't really teach you how you're supposed to behave as a lawyer.
No, they don't.
No, I mean, and so part of the time, I remember in the early days thinking that I should be tough. I should be about everything and kind of an asshole about everything.
Absolutely.
And so there was a bit of play acting.
Yeah.
Because, this is how I'm supposed to act.
That's right.
And that was really because of stress. It was really of that fear. I don't know what I'm doing,
right.
And then as I learned more about my profession, I realized that it really is about getting along with people.
It is.
And that's how, our roles as litigators and advocates for our clients are to be persuasive.
Right.
And you can't be persuasive if you are being a jerk.
No.
You can be direct, you can be firm, and be totally pleasant.
Well, one of my principals when I was articling, her attitude was, you fight, whatever side you're on, you fight, because that's your job. At the end of the case, you should always be able to go out for a meal or a drink with the opposing counsel, and because everyone has a job.
Yeah.
And I got, from my perspective, if you were an ambulance chaser, you wouldn't care about those things.
Oh, no. No.
You wouldn't
You're
care
absolutely
about it.
right.
And on that note, I'm going to wrap this up and ask everyone to like, share, subscribe, and please leave a review for Ambulance Chasers. And we will see you for episode 5.
Yep. Thank you.